The movie begins on May 5, 1997 with Gene and his family moving into their new home. It's the first time he's seen the house, but he feels a sense of familiarity as if he's seen it before. His brother Yu is an accomplished individual excelling in his studies and university with various talents in all fields. However, a year prior he was in an accident and his left leg was injured. Their belongings are moved into the new house and a wall is hung a result of the year. This May 5, 1997. Gene goes up to his room on the second floor but finds that his brother is sharing the same room with him because the previous owner had pleaded with their father to leave his belongings in the other room, promising to pick them up within a month. They have lunch and their father warns them that no one should ever try to enter that room at the insistent request of the previous owner. Gene hears a knocking sound from the room and his father tells him, "That's the sound of thunder," emphasizing that the room only contains the old owner's furniture. Night falls and everyone in the house goes to sleep. Gene hears knocking sounds coming from the direction of the room and considers going to open the door. His brother pulls him back saying, "There are no sounds," and takes him outside for a while. A light is seen moving from under the door into the room. They walk together in the rain until their father calls Yu urgently asking for a file, telling him to go back home to get it. However, Yu is kidnapped and Gene doesn't manage to save him, but he memorizes the license plate number of the car that kidnapped his brother. He runs to his parents and tells them what happened. They faint from exhaustion. The investigation into his brother's kidnapping begins and the investigators tell them there's no black car with that license plate number and that they will monitor their phones in case the kidnappers call them. After 19 days, Yu returns home remembering nothing and suffering from amnesia due to what he experienced. Their lives return to normal and Gene also notices that his brother is limping on his right leg, even though the injury was to his left leg. He asks him, "Why are you limping on your right leg?" But his brother says he's in a hurry for an errand, bids him farewell and leaves. Gene finishes his breakfast and doesn't dwell on the matter. Night comes and Gene falls asleep at his desk from studying so much. His brother comes and takes a pen, extending the lead towards Gene's eye while he sleeps until the lead falls onto the desk. Gene feels it but pretends to be asleep. Yu leaves and goes downstairs. Gene watches him walk normally without any injury to his leg and tries to figure out where he's going. He finds his brother meeting with the investigators from the kidnapping case who call him the boss. He continues to follow his brother until he suddenly disappears and he finds the investigators behind him trying to catch him, but he manages to hide. His brother comes from behind him, tranquilizes him, and he faints. Gene wakes up at his desk in his room as if nothing happened. He finds his brother awake behind him and he gets scared, hiding in the bathroom. He tells him that he knows where he went at night and that he was watching him. Yu tries to convince him that he didn't go out at night and that he was asleep the whole night, so Gene comes out of the bathroom holding an iron bar because he's scared of his brother, who tells him that everything he's experiencing is because he forgot to take his medication. His brother bids him farewell and goes downstairs. Gene continues studying but finds the pen lead on the desk, confirming that he wasn't dreaming and that everything he saw was real. He reads and enters, finding his brother Yu hanged in the room, but he wakes up startled from sleep, realizing it was a nightmare. He goes down to the kitchen to drink and hears his mother warning his brother that Gene has discovered everything and that things will go wrong and he needs to return soon, but his mother senses him and he hides from her, climbing to his room through its outer window. She comes up to check on him and finds him in his bed. She goes back down to continue her call and tells Yu that she has also been exposed. Gene tries to escape from the house and finds his father trying to stop him, but he runs away from him and someone working for his parents chases him. He manages to reach the police station and tells them that he was held captive for a month in a nearby house with people who claim to be his family. They conduct a background check on Gene and pull up his file. The shock comes when they tell him that he was born in 1977, which means he's 41 years old. But Gene tells them he's 21, not 41. The officer tells him to look closely at the calendar. Gene looks and confirms that today's date is May 5, 2017. He's startled and looks around, seeing inventions he's never seen before, like mobile phones. He goes to look at himself in the mirror and sees an old man with white hair. He leaves the police station and goes to the house he used to live in. He opens the door to the locked room and finds a specific song playing with two mannequins on the floor covered in blood. He finds Yu standing in front of him and asks him, "Who are you and what's happening?" He says, "In this house, in the same room, a murder occurred 20 years ago. The police were baffled by the brutal murder of a mother and her daughter but couldn't apprehend the killer and the case was closed. But the victims' families didn't give up and hired people to investigate the crime, and Yu was their leader. Finally, they managed to find the killer, who is Gene. He says, "We held you in a place and tortured you to confess, but you always said you didn't remember what happened and denied the crime. We brought in a hypnosis expert who played the role of the father and he confirmed that you have amnesia. We tried to take you back in time to the period before you committed the crime through hypnosis, and this would help you recall the memories related to the crime you committed. We also made you take medication that would help our plan and made you believe it was an antidepressant. We brought in an actress to play the role of the mother to make the role convincing. Using hypnosis and a realistic storyline, we succeeded in preparing your mind to go back to the period before the crime occurred. Gene wakes up in a car with those he thinks are his family moving to his new house. The movie begins from the start, and when he felt he had seen the house before, it was because he actually had seen it, entered it, and committed his crime there, after which he lost his memory. Their entire plan was to revive the killer's memories and reenact the crime scene, performing all the details, even the music that was playing at the moment of the crime. However, unfortunately, at the moment of executing the plan, you was arrested by the police, and the plan was ruined because the crime happened on a rainy day, and there wasn't going to be rain again soon. Gene denies committing the crime and jumps out of the car, escaping from you, who tries to chase him in a car until he crashes the car into a tree. Gene tries to continue his escape, but the car hits him and he falls and hits his head and is transferred to the hospital. We go back in time to May 5, 1997, when Gene was actually going to move to a new house with his parents. They get into a car accident on the road, and his real father and mother die. His brother falls into a coma and needs a lot of money for necessary surgeries, but he works for 6 months and can't gather the amount. He tries to borrow money from anyone but fails. Then he receives a message on his computer that an unknown person will give him what he wants on the condition that he kills a mother without touching her children. Gene agrees, and the address is sent to him. He enters and finds the mother sleeping next to her son, but he snaps out of what he was about to do and regrets it, deciding to leave. But the mother wakes up and brings her daughter down screaming as soon as she sees Gene with the knife in his hand. He chases her and enters her room, but he falls on her and stabs her, and she dies. The mother enters and finds her daughter murdered, so she also starts screaming. He then stabs her and hits the cassette player, and a song plays loudly. He loses his composure and keeps crying. While Gene is escaping from the house, he sees a picture of the doctor who is treating his brother in the house, and he understands that the doctor is behind all of this. He goes to the hospital and asks him, "How could you ask him to do something like that, and how could you want your wife to die?" He understands that just as he wanted to save his brother, the doctor also wanted to save his children with the insurance money on his wife's life. The doctor attacks him when he learns that he killed his daughter and tries to kill Gene by throwing him off the hospital roof, but the doctor is the one who falls, which causes Gene to suffer a severe shock that leads to amnesia, which is why he couldn't remember anything about the crime he committed. Gene wakes up in the hospital with you beside him. Before you injects the poison into his forehead, Gene asks to meet the victims' families because he remembers everything and needs to see them. You asks him about the person who ordered the killing of the mother and daughter, and says that he suspects her husband, the doctor, is behind it because he found out that he had insured the mother's life for large sums of money. He tells you that he remembered the child he met that day, and that he is that child, and that his whole life changed from the day he met him. And that after his father's death, his relatives took all the money and threw him into an orphanage, and now his only dream is to catch the person who killed his parents, and that he will get revenge no matter what. Gene tries to convince you that he was the one who killed his mother, and he was the one who decided to do it without anyone telling him to, so that he would bear all the guilt alone, and so that he wouldn't tarnish his father's image in front of him. But you is confident that he is lying and decides not to kill him, leaving the syringe with the poison next to him and letting him go. He goes to a window in the hospital and commits suicide by jumping from it. So Gene decides to inject himself with the poison and also dies because of the crimes he committed.